comments regarding the Idaho game aren't much different than what I said after the game in the press conference. I thought our team played one of its most complete games. Our special teams were stronger from start to finish than what they had been. I think our offense has really nice balance. We played good defense, and despite the loss of Riley early on, Jake filled in and did a nice job moving the football team and making good decisions. As we prepare now for New Mexico State, and Dwayne Walker, who does have some ties to BYU, having spent time here as an assistant coach. Very explosive offensively, with speed and athleticism at running back, receiver, and mobile quarterback. Kind of a wide open style, up tempo. Defensively, they've struggled with managing points, but they, again, in terms of their season, a lot of the games have been close. And so it'll be an interesting matchup, an intriguing matchup, but another one, fortunately for us, that's on ESPN. So with that, I'll take questions that anyone has regarding this week's opponent or last week's game.
Can we get an update on Mike Haig and Houston Reynolds? Is there any further evaluation of their injuries?
The latest update on Mike Haig was he had an AC separation. He's expected and has a chance to return to play this week. Probably won't see him in practice or any kind of contact until maybe Thursday, which will be necessary to keep the depth we need in the secondary. Regarding Houston Reynolds, he's has been playing with a torn ligament in his shoulder. His commitment has been, and his hope has been, to make it through the entire season before he gets surgery. There wasn't increased damage done. It was hurt, and he took a shot to it, and it's very, very painful, so we'll have to let that subside a little bit, but it doesn't look like structurally there's anything worse done that would require surgery immediately.
What's the latest on Riley?
Latest on Riley, and I'm not sure what everybody knows to this point. There was basically what's called a pneumothorax, which the severity of the blow is, it hits you so hard that air escapes the lung, goes into the body cavity, and then the lung collapses. About 30% of the lung was collapsed. They put a tube in, suck the air out so the lung can re-expand. He'll be released from the hospital today. There was also, from my understanding, 2 ribs that have been broken or fractured up near the top. I think it's the second. And there's a chance that Riley could return to play as early as Hawaii. They're listing a 4-week recovery at this point. And that's plus or minus. So normally when they give those times, it's conservative in nature. One of the issues will be anytime there's a lung injury with extended air travel, that adds increased risk. And so whether he could possibly even he might be able to play but not be able to make the trip because of the pressurization in the air cabin when he's flying. And so that'll be a decision that will come later.
So if he is healthy and cleared to play for the Hawaii game, would he immediately go back into the starting role?
He would. Anybody else?
Bronco, you played Dwayne Walker obviously for a few years there when he was at UCLA. And do you keep a friendship with him, or have you talked to him much in the past 2-3 years?
Maybe just once a year. There's either I'll see him at the convention, or in this particular year, we had just beaten Utah State, and I received a text from him. And then we were getting ready to play at San Jose State coming up on our schedule, and they had just played him. And so he provided some insight into what he found at San Jose. And so there's been a few texts like that have gone back and forth. And that's really the extent of it. So I would say our relationship is slightly more than professional and more friendly than a lot of the coaches that I interact with. And he's done a nice job. I think that with the remaining teams left, they have us on their schedule. I still believe they have Utah State, but the progress they're making, you can see it in athleticism and in talent. And the schemes are catching up to that. So whether this will be the breakthrough year or whether it will be next year, but you can see progress.
And you talked about just wanting to get better the next few weeks. Is it harder to evaluate against an Idaho than it is at TCU or games like that?
Not necessarily. You know, I never really tried to manage that in terms of, I take into account what I think of the opponent, but really when we grade our film, and when I evaluate our team, I'm looking at the execution of each and every player on our team. I'm looking at the position master, I'm looking at the fundamentals, I'm looking at the effort, regardless of who we play. And we did take a step forward in the game, and it was a cleaner game played. The rest of the game was very similar to TCU. We didn't make as many mistakes, but our fundamentals and our effort and excitement to play, and I think the bye helped us. You know, I was uncertain as to how that was going to play out, but in looking at the number of players to the ball, the number of blocks downfield, the freshness and some of the bursts that some of our players had, it looked like the bye was at least one of the reasons that I would say contributed.
Bronco, have the discussions with the Big East continued?
Not that I know of, and again, I've only asked to be included kind of when there's points and things that I need to know, or that Tom or the president thinks I need to know, so they might still be going on, but I haven't been in the loop since my last announcement with that.
Are you getting tired of these late starts?
Late starts are not my favorite. However, it's a trade-off that I would make every time now in relation to the exposure. I didn't feel like that at one time. And in the Mountain West, we had a huge kind of push talking about, you know, we play college football when it's supposed to be played, and that's Saturdays at 11 or 1 or etc. The feedback now from so many people having seen us play, I'm willing right now to endure a long day to have more people see us, but they're hard.
You find it interesting or ironic that your running quarterback was hurt throwing the football?
Yeah. You know, Riley, it's not that he was just throwing it, that he was standing in to the very last second with the guy bearing in on him. He sees him bearing in on him and stands and throws it anyway, throws a touchdown. And what's more ironic is that that actually wasn't the play he was hurt on. He played about 5 plays, so the second, or the touchdown pass that he was hit second on, he'd been playing already with it. It was the first hit.
The one with the near interception on the sideline, right? I think so. On the plays on which he was hit, you looked at the design of those plays. How were they blocked? Was there anything amiss there?
No, it was just simply a pass rusher coming off the block late enough to where it wasn't a sack, wasn't an interception. In one case, it was a touchdown. But you would like to have the protection hold a hair longer. But again, usually when I consider it a flaw, I never like to see our quarterback hit, but when he's sacked is usually when I become more alarmed. In this case, it was right after delivery.
Did things appear dicey at any point that night from the medical staff, the way word was relayed to you in terms of his injury?
No more so than after the initial evaluation, because his pain threshold, his tolerance is so high, trying to get an idea of how hurt he was, because he doesn't act hurt. And so when they pressed on his chest cavity on the sideline, that's when they could tell that there was air that had escaped the lung, and that's when they took him to the hospital. And so they could tell just by pushing on it. It wasn't him saying that he was in dire pain or anything.
Coach, I know Jake's had some reps, he's had a lot of reps playing, especially in the last game. How do you guys make that adjustment going from Riley, who's a lot more mobile, to Jake, who's more of a pocket quarterback?
Yeah, it is an adjustment, and there will have to be some things changed. A lot of what Riley does, there's a number of running plays that make him effective, but really the offense is similar enough right now that Riley's simple ability to scramble is what makes it so difficult. And so not much, and I couldn't give you the percentage of offense that would change because now it's Jake in rather than Riley, other than the scrambling ability and the ability to create in the backfield, escaping rushers, etc. That'll be the biggest and the most noticeable thing. More convention.
Coach, is this group of seniors that will play their final game at LaBelle Stadium, are they all your recruits, or there's some left over? And then can you just kind of describe what characterizes this senior class?
I think they're all mine.
What?
Matt Putnam was not. Matt Putnam was signed. I remember watching him on film when I came as a defensive coordinator, so he would be an exception. There might be others, but Jaden was one of ours because he was at Washington State and wanted to transfer when I was first hired. I don't know if we're missing anybody else, but either way, I would say the overwhelming majority are our recruits, and they've helped us win a lot of football games. And to have so many that have made it through the program from beginning to end in this class, that also means a lot to me in terms of retention and hopefully identifying the right kids on the front end. And my hope is, as you visit with them after the season or even now, that what they say about their experience and what has transpired here, that will matter a lot to me. Again, not by what they say, but hopefully those experiences are positive and they feel it will be helpful to help them transition into real life.
One of those seniors is JJ DiLuigi. Can you talk about what he's meant to the program and what he's represented?
JJ is he's a great success story because JJ was with a group of younger players his age that was struggling here at the beginning. And probably JJ's sophomore year or redshirt freshman year, you could talk to him and he made a clear choice that he had enough of that. And there were others that continued down that path that didn't remain with us. And JJ has, to his credit, remained just solid in terms of meeting program goals, expectations. He currently leads the Bible study for our team that he chose to do, which is he's looking to contribute in many ways as possible. He catches the ball well out of the backfield. He runs with it well, and he's just become a program player. And I give him a lot of credit for hanging in his resiliency in this environment and at this place which he has grown to love. That's what he's told.
Well, along the same lines of the late starts, fewer people in the stands, cold weather, later start, maybe not as well known of an opponent. Is that a concern for you? Just that you're trading some of the TV exposure for some of the local people that fill the stands?
I'd certainly like to see it full. I'm not sure what the announced attendance was on 58,000, so capacity is 64-ish. To me, 58 is still a really strong showing under those circumstances. And then you add those 58 to all the others that are seeing it, there's still more people seeing our games. And it ended up being, and the weather prediction kind of had me scared a little bit. It didn't end up being that bad. I think anyone there saw us play good football. And regardless of opponent, I believe that on any given night, anyone can beat anyone. And so I was happy with the way our team played. And we have a chance to continue, again, through 2 more regular season and postseason games, have another strong season, which just continues to build our program and make it stronger and stronger and stronger. And this test that we have this Saturday is more significant than last week. And so whether an 8:15 start or not will affect it to where there'll be 58,000 or 57,000. There'll be many more watching it on TV. I would certainly like both. I'd love for the stands to be absolutely full, and I'd love for everyone to have a chance to get the channel to be watching it. That's what I prefer. But right now, the number of people that are seeing it so far outweighs a few of the corners that are empty. It's just kind of how it is.
Coach, is this a chance for Jake to regain some trust, whether it's the coaching staff or the players who can play this weekend?
Jake has a great opportunity, and I'm not sure it's a matter of trust. I think it's just a matter of continuing to play with poise and maturity and increased confidence in leading our team. Jake, much like Riley a year ago, had the more difficult part of the schedule to begin with. And as now he has a chance to reemerge or resurge, I guess I would say it. I'd expect him to do it now after having watched at a level of increased leadership, excitement, execution, and really demonstrate to not only the team, but to everyone around BYU football, just to remind him how capable he really is. And he showed that Saturday, and I think he'll show it again this upcoming